fountain of life. A collection of live recorded sermons from His Grace Bishop Emilianos of Maloa, aiming to make us fountains of the Holy Spirit. Here is today's message.
Last week we spoke, because the Gospel was talking about the dedication of the apostles, we spoke about the apostolic calling, and we connected it with the people that they are married. Today the Gospel talks again about the apostolic calling through a different text. The Gospel tells us how the fishermen, Andrew, Peter, Jacob and John, they gave up their sheep, their nets, their fish and their parents instantly there and there, and they followed Christ. So today I would like to connect the Gospel and what the apostles did with the monastic calling. We know from our church that there are two ways that we can follow, two roads in the life of the church to be a good Christian and to save our souls. We either get married or we become monks or nuns. In both ways we are called to become saints. There are some differences, but there are some similarities as well. The monks, they give three promises: obedience, poverty, and chastity. I will not tell you difficult things. I will just tell you three small real stories from Mount Athos. Now the first story. There was a novice and he went to the brotherhood. Now when the elder went in his room to see what he had brought from home and to tell him what to keep and what not to keep there, he saw that he had a big stamp collection. He was gathering these stamps since he was little, and the elder told him, "My child, here in the desert you don't need the stamps. If we had a little kid to give them to, we would, but we don't, so just burn them in the fire that we use for heating." The novice was so cut, was so sad, he couldn't handle the thought of getting rid of the things that he was gathering one by one all his life, and he had memories connected with each and every one of these single stamps. So he was very sad, and during the evening, Father Athanasios, who's now the Bishop of Lemessou, he was a monk back then in this brotherhood, he went to his cell and he told him, "Why are you sad? You gave up your parents, you gave up your good job, you gave up your car, you gave up your whole life to follow Christ, and now these stamps are stopping you from following Christ. So just give them up and that's it." So he took the decision to give up the stamps, and he managed to stay in the brotherhood. Otherwise, they would have not kept him. Now all of us, we have inside us things kept since we were young, and things that we don't want to get rid of, things that we don't want to separate from. Unfortunately, usually there are things that they are worse than stamps. We have memories, we have opinions, we have knowledge, and we have a huge will. If we don't get rid of all of these, they become inside us stronger than the love for Christ. So basically, we start venerating idols instead of following the true God. Now I will tell you the second story. There was a monastery, and someone gave one of the monks as a gift a very expensive pen. The monk could not keep it without a blessing from the elder, so he went to the elder and asked for the blessing to keep the pen. The elder told him, "What do you need this expensive pen? Just throw it in the cliff." There was a cliff under the monastery. So the monk, because he liked the pen so much, he got a string, he attached the one end of the string to the balcony and the other end on the pen, and he threw the pen, but of course the pen did not go in the cliff because it was still hanging from the string. Then he went back to his elder and he said, "Elder, if I ever find this pen again, can I keep it?" The elder told him, "Whatever you want." He didn't want to go deeper into the issue, into the thing. So the monk went to his balcony and he picked up the pen and he kept it. What I wanted to tell you here is that even if our elder is not the sharpest tool in the shed, our obedience and the connection between the elder and the disciple, it's a sacrament. And there is no possibility that we could ever trick God himself. If we do so, we will find it in front of us in the future. Now I'm going to the third example. Once it was this novice to a small brotherhood, and his elder told him to go to the capital of Mount Athos to do something, and he gave specific instructions to go through the certain path and come back. The novice went to the capital of Mount Athos, Carriès. He did what he had to do. He came back. The mission was successful, but the elder asked, "Which path did you go through?" And he didn't follow the path that elder told him. So the elder said to the brotherhood, "The novice will not stay in the monastery, in the brotherhood." And the monks told the elder, "He's such a good kid. We need him. We won't find someone else like him again." And the elder insisted, "The novice will not stay in the brotherhood. Wherever he will go, he will not even stay there." So what happened? He left. He couldn't stay. He didn't have the blessing to stay. And he went to the biggest monastery of Mount Athos. He became a monk there. Everybody was saying what a nice person he was, what a useful person he was, how he was helping everyone. He became a member of the committee of the elders, like the top level that someone can reach in a monastery, not in a spiritual way, but in a way of governing the monastery. And after 20 years, without any signs, he gave up everything and he went and he got married. Now, the elder was not a saint that could see the future, but he knew about monasticism and he had experience. And he knew how the tempter can use our weaknesses and our psychological and spiritual gaps. And now you will tell me what the elder said does not happen straight away, but after 20 whole years. Could this be a coincidence? The tempter has nothing else to do than try to trick us. And he doesn't care how many years he will use to fulfill his commitment. So he will never stop fighting against us, especially when he realizes that we have a weakness. If he rushes to move against us and we realize his tactics, then we might react and he will fail. But if he moves slowly with patience and persistence, he hopes that he will end up make us fall. And he destroyed this monk after 20 whole years of monastic life and dedication, because this monk, not knowing how to empty himself, and that he had to empty himself with the absolute obedience, he did not manage to strengthen in his struggle his soul against his own desires. So you can yourselves make conclusions about the stories that we just talked about. I just wanted to mention one thing. In all the stories, the novice or the monk had a personal difficulty to empty himself and to be absolutely obedient. And what I will tell you, it's the same for every soul of a novice, of a monk, or even of a married person, if we are serious about our relationship with our God and through our spiritual father, with God. Even if the smallest thing from our own will, we keep it inside us, from our own will, from our own judgment, from our own ideas, even the smallest thing that it's not according to the word and the spirit of our elder, we will find it in front of us multiplied as a huge difficulty and temptation in the future. And why is that? Because, as we said, the small thing that we kept inside us does not let us to fulfill in full the self-denial, our self-denial. And what this means is that when we will find ourselves in a strong tribulation, in a strong temptation, we will not have the psychological strength to resist. And even with the difference of a light feather, we will end up falling on the ground, dead spiritually. And this is because we restricted our soul from the exercise, from the psychological exercise that would have increased our psychological strength. And now our strength is limited. And of course, by disobeying, we don't have the blessing of God to go above our psychological limits. Now, that's what I wanted to mention today. You can go home and think about all these things. And in case any one of you have any questions, you can come and talk to me in person.